Pre-flight 101, the course that will give you wings. 4. Pre-flight checks and flight dispatch guidelines. 4.2. NOTAMS, weather and flight folder preparation. Part 2. Some of the biggest threats when flying out there are meteorology and aircraft failures. Studies have shown that in most accidents and incidents related especially with general aviation and training aviation, these two factors are usually contributing factors or even the probable causes of the accidents and incidents. As pilots have the responsibility of managing those threats in order to lower the risk and therefore enjoy a safe flight. As I mentioned in previous lesson, a good ground preparation is key for a safe flight. We need to prepare so if a abnormal situation appears, we are able to manage it the better we can. We're going to look now at the meteorological briefing, which its key topics. Far from being a detailed lesson on meteorology, this lesson is going to explain you the keys for understanding and gathering all the meteorological information. As I mentioned in previous lessons, the explanation will be based in the system that is widely used in my country. However, there are plenty of websites, apps, and programs that do the same job. A good thing in aviation is that, as I said in the previous lesson, basically everything seems to be standard for everyone. So we'll have no problem using other platforms with the information we're just about to see. If you wish, you can download now the sample meteorological one from the documentation section to follow this explanation. The three aeronautical products we'll be using for basic flight planning are altimeter and TAF. This is local information about the meteorological information of the airfield and its vicinities. The significant weather chart is a variable area information of significant weather that might affect the safety of the flight. And the last is the wind and temperature charts. It is also a variable area information that might help with flight planning regarding wind and, for example, temperature considerations. In this case, this is an example of a meta. It is an encoded piece of information that basically provides us with hourly or half-hourly information on the meteorology at the airport and its vicinity. At the documentation section, you can find a guide to decode this information. This document, just like with the NOTAMS, is not mine. I didn't publish it. It's just a public guideline that everyone can download online or search in a library, in an aviation library, and it's basically the international guide to decode meteorological information. Now, let's take a look at the information shown on the screen. Echo Delta Delta Hotel. This is a meta for Hamburg. This is an aerodrome to the north of Germany. And this code basically tells us where the information is coming from. The meter, as we said before, is meteorological reports. So it's basically telling you the information on the prevailing conditions. And the TAF is stands for forecast. Okay, it's an aerodrome forecast. So basically, it's the word stands for terminal aerodrome forecast, and it's going to give us the forecast for the terminal guide, the terminal zone of this aerodrome. Now, this group right here is the group related to wind. Okay, in this case, the wind is coming from 280-15 knots of intensity. This other is related to the date of issue of the meter or TAF 03-1450 Zulu. This means that it was issued the day 03 at 14:50 hours Zulu. Okay. 9999 stands for the visibility. In this case, is 10 kilometers or more. It can also say KVK. That is when conditions are good, there are no clouds around. And as I said, if you go to that guide, or you might remember this from your meteorological classes, there are certain conditions that have to be met in order for this word to appear. For now, if this number was 7,000, for example, that would mean that the visibility, the prevailing visibility, is 7,000 meters or 7 kilometers. Okay. Now, tempo. Tempo is the trend. Okay, it's the temporary fluctuations that might occur within the published time of this meter, right? So there are going to be some temporary fluctuations of wind from 280.15 gusting, okay, the G stands for gusting, 25 knots, okay. That means that there are going to be gusts up to 25 knots, fluctuating temporary, okay. As I said before, go to the guide and learn exactly what tempo means. Now, this is a significant weather chart. We said before, is variable area. We're going to see how to read it. This is a significant weather chart for the upper levels. The lower level one are a bit different, but anyway, the information is also shown with drawings, okay. In this case, we have a jet stream, right? So that jet stream is flying at speed of 200 and I don't really see it correctly. I think it's 30 at that point. So you just have to read through that. Another good sign is this one. The dashed lines means turbulence, okay. We also can see some significant weather in those cloud shape drawings. In this case, there are CVs from XXX, means that it's coming from the surface or from the lower limit of the chart. The lower limit of the chart can see here, and it's going up to a certain flight level. I think it's 380. I don't really see it properly from here, but anyway, you get the idea. You're just going to see some hazards that might affect you in your route. Now, the last one is the wind and temperature. It's a real similar one. This one, as I said before, is the upper wind and temperature chart for Europe, okay. Basically, you just have the lines that represent the weather, the wind, and then you have the temperature numbers that basically represent the temperature. Anyway, this is just the information you have to have. Now, this is the arrow guide, okay, the arrow mnemonics that we were talking about before. Do you remember what the mnemonic was talking about? Yes, exactly. Papers we need to carry on board. This part of the course will feature most of the usually required documents to be carried. Now, the A stands, as I said before, for a worthiness certificate, okay. A certificate of airworthiness, or an airworthiness certificate, it is issued for an aircraft by the National Aviation Authority in the state which the aircraft is registered. So if your aircraft is registered in Brazil, for example, your airworthiness certificate is going to be issued by the Brazilian authority. The airworthiness certificate assessed that the aircraft is airworthy, okay, and that it conforms to its type design, okay, that no modifications out of the law have been promoted. So basically that's the airworthiness certificate. Then with the first R, we have the registration certificate. The registration certificate is basically a legal document. It's one of the documents which must be carried when the aircraft is in operation. It states basically the state of registration and the registration code of your airplane. This is basically the same as it happens with your car. Okay, you have your registration plate, and then you have some papers inside of the car that say that that plate is legal and where exactly you created or you registered your car. The third letter stands for radio station permit or certificate. There are different rules within the countries whether you need to carry it, you don't need to carry it. For example, in the FAA zone, the United States, you only need to carry your radio station permit if you are flying abroad to another country, okay? However, it basically allows you to operate the radio as you are flying your aircraft. It's nothing really big or difficult. The operating handbook, we already talked about the operating handbook, the pilot operating handbook, the POH, in the previous section, in section 3. It is mandatory to be carried, okay, inside the airplane at all times. If you want to check or review this section, go check it out. The last letter is the W, stands for weight and balance. The weight and balance sheet is a mandatory document to fill, okay, for every flight. This is just as a proof of being operating the aircraft inside the envelope, right? We are gonna see in a further chapter how to actually create this document or actually calculate the weight and balance of the airplane. But basically you need to know there is a paper that we calculated for the flight with the conditions of the flight that basically says, well, the loads in this airplane, people, cargo, mail, animals, your flight instructor, who cares? All the loads have been placed properly, so the maximum weight is not exceeded on takeoff or on landing, okay? And that the center of gravity of the aircraft is center enough for a safe takeoff and landing. So that's basically that. Those are the papers that are required, but we also have some of them that are remarkable. For example, the noise certificate. The noise certificate is issued by the CAAS and is a mean of documenting that your aircraft complies with the ICAO requirements. You only need to apply once during the aircraft registration, but if the noise level or standard of your aircraft changes, you need a new one. Okay, this for a small aircraft is maybe not that significant as they don't produce that much noise, but in big aircraft such as, for example, the MD-85 or the 747, you might get banned from certain airports or to operate at certain times due to the noise you produce that might bother the areas, the populated areas around the airport. Okay, so yes, we talked about all the documents. Oh, I'm forgetting a really important one, the ATC flight plan. Okay, if we plan on flying in a controlled airspace or we just need any kind of assistance from ATC during our flight, we should file a flight plan. We will see in further lessons how to file it and the different formats you can actually find it. Good. Now you're aware of the different documents we need in order to actually take off following the rules. You know the difference between the meteorological products you can use for flight preparation. And in the next lesson, you will learn how to fill a standard ICAO flight plan and all the variants from it that you can encounter, at least the ones related to small aircraft. In big aircraft, commercial operations, big jets, the flight plan is basically the same. However, some of the boxes we are going to be filling in that flight plan are not needed in small local flights with a small aircraft. Okay, don't worry, we will see this after. It's just as an advisory for you. Basically, also we're gonna learn how to fill a standard Cessna weight and balance sheet, and this will complete the flight planning section. Okay, so after this, you're gonna be ready to prepare for a flight. Okay, most important thing from this lesson, flight planning is crucial, guys. It's the most important thing. If you are prepared when you stepped for the first time in your aircraft, Not only you're gonna enjoy the flight more because you're gonna be more aware of your surroundings, but it's just gonna be safer. Okay, if you know the meteorology surrounding you, if you know the NOTAMS, nothing can actually surprise you. And that is what we are looking for with a good preparation. We don't want surprises in flight. I mean, I love surprises. I like birthday surprises. I like surprises at home with my friends, but not in an aircraft, especially in a small aircraft like this where I am maybe the only pilot and I'm fully responsible. I need to know everything that is around me, or at least the biggest part. Anyway, join me in the next lesson. We will talk about ATC flight plans.